I used to be an avid Twitter user. It used to be my go-to app for wasting time, scrolling through tweets, and catching up on the latest memes. Over time, I had grown somewhat immune to the occasional creepy direct message. I had learned to ignore them, to just brush them off as part of the experience. One evening, I received a notification about a new follower. It was a name I didn't recognize, and the profile picture was a little blurry, but nothing immediately sent alarm bells ringing. I followed the account back as I usually would and immediately received a message. I decided to open it, even though I was sure it was spam. Inside the DM was a link to another Twitter profile, Secret Tweets. My curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on the link. The profile was filled with a series of photos, each featuring different people seemingly caught off guard. Some were on public transportation, others on park benches, and a few even seemed to be in the privacy of their own homes. What made it weird was that none of these people appeared to be aware they were being photographed. As I continued scrolling through the account, expecting to find crude or inappropriate comments, I was met with an odd sight. The comments on the posts were not what I expected. The comments were all just numbers getting gradually higher and higher, stuff like 700, 750, 800, 1000. This was the same under every single post. People writing slightly larger numbers in reply to the last person. The oddest part of all was that every single account that commented appeared to be spam accounts. No profile pictures, no followers, they were just anonymous accounts with no profile set up. I decided to report the account and sent the link to my friend Becky. Still, I didn't give it too much thought, and I continued with my day, attending classes and getting lost in assignments. It wasn't until later, after school, that Becky finally replied to my message. Her response was a mix of shock and concern, urging me to report it to the police right away. Her reaction bewildered me, and I questioned why she was so alarmed. Her reply was chilling. "Why are you not worried about someone posting pictures of you on their Twitter?" I quickly returned to the profile, my heart racing. Amongst the unsettling images, I found photos of myself, pictures taken without my knowledge while I walked home from college. I remembered seeing a parked car that day, but I didn't think much of it at the time. My heart sank as I realized that the profile had images of me, just like the others, taken without my consent. The same trend was happening under the pictures of me. Faceless accounts writing numbers, 1300, 1400, 1800. I kept refreshing, watching the number replies come through, and that's when it all clicked. 2000, with a $sign next to it. My heart dropped and I refreshed again. The tweet was deleted and replaced with just the number 2000. They were bidding. They were offering payment, but for what? Fear gripped me as I comprehended the gravity of the situation. I reported the account to Twitter and contacted the police, providing every detail I could recall. With trembling hands, I locked myself in my room, talking to Becky over the phone, all while being home alone. Hours crawled by, and when I eventually refreshed the Twitter page, I was met with an unsettling message. "This page does not exist." My heart pounded in my chest. Becky confirmed the same result. To this day, I don't know if Twitter removed it or if the person behind the account deactivated it. The cryptic numbers in the comments remain a mystery. But one thing's for sure, it felt like a twisted setup, and I'm grateful not to know any more about what was happening with that Twitter page. A few years ago, when I was just a teenager, I had a rather peculiar and unsettling experience in a supermarket that still baffles me to this day. It was a typical Friday evening, and I found myself at our local grocery store, tasked with picking up some items for the weekend. At the time, I was around 16 years old. I was a typical cheeky teenager. The supermarket was a place I had visited countless times, but this visit would be unlike any other. As I strolled through the aisles, I noticed a child's voice coming from somewhere nearby. It sounded faint, as if it were coming from behind the shelves. This was nothing extraordinary for a grocery store, a kid amusing themselves or playing hide and seek. I used to do that myself. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to play along. With a grin on my face, I knelt down next to the cans and responded to the tiny voice. "Hey, what are you doing back there?" trying to sound playful. To my amazement, the voice responded, "I'm stuck. Please help me." At first, I found it amusing, thinking it was another shopper's child having a little fun. I chuckled and continued the conversation, exchanging lighthearted banter with the mysterious voice. It was almost like a game of pretend, and I played along, asking them how they got behind the shelves and what they were doing there. But then, the tone of the voice changed, growing more desperate. "I'm really stuck. It's so dark, and I can't breathe properly." My amusement began to fade as genuine concern started to take its place. I realized that this might not be a joke, and I needed to act quickly. I called over a store employee and explained the situation, telling them that there was a child trapped behind the canned goods. The employee rushed to get help, visibly concerned. I tried to reassure the child that help was on the way, but the response I received sent chills down my spine. "Hurry, please. It's getting harder to breathe." Panicking, I shout the employee over and I quickly move the cans aside, expecting to find a child in distress. But to my absolute bewilderment, there was nothing behind the shelves, no space, no child, just a solid wall. The employee caught up to me and we both exchanged uneasy glances. I was utterly dumbfounded, and the store employee seemed quite annoyed at the mess I'd made. I awkwardly tried searching around the shelves, but the whole thing was up against an obvious wall. To this day, I remain haunted by how real the whole thing felt, that child's voice, seemingly trapped behind a wall and slowly suffocating. It was a surreal and unsettling experience, the only time I've ever experienced something so convincingly real. I came to Burning Man with a group of friends. They're not the smartest bunch, but they're adventurous and always up for a laugh. After the rain stopped, people were panicking, trying to make a break for it before things got worse. Dozens of people started trying to drive out or walk back to the road. But I don't need to tell you that they didn't get very far. The mud and water ensured nobody got more than a few hundred meters. My friends thought they had a better idea. Instead of joining the frantic crowd heading towards the road, they thought it was smarter to go in the opposite direction, believing it was drier that way. I tried to convince them to follow the official advice. We had an emergency message come through. Do not drive your vehicle. Do not ride your bike. Do not push your bike around. Remain where you are. Secure structures and belongings in your camp. Don't operate generators or other electrically powered instruments that are standing in water. Cover or secure anything electrical. Check on your campmates and neighbors to make sure they're okay and help them as needed. Take advantage of a moment of calm to connect with campmates and hunker down. Stay safe out there, Black Rock City. They didn't want to listen to me about it being a bad idea and thought I was just being soft. But I've been around this kind of mud before. I know how exhausting it is to try to get through it and how dangerous it can be to become dehydrated without shelter in the middle of the desert. They left without me. Their map told them it was a 3-hour walk to the road in the opposite direction. They didn't believe me when I told them that it'd be dark by the time they could even see the road, because the mud would easily cut their walking speed in half. I watched them the whole time, slowly trekking through the mud. After about 4 hours it started to go dark and I could no longer see them. They barely made it halfway to the road and now I could guarantee they couldn't see it. I tried calling them, but none of them had any signal. It was cold, and they were soaked in mud and likely freezing out there. There's another storm on the way, they're nowhere near the road and I can't get in contact with anyone who can even help. I called the cops and told them about the situation, but they said there's nothing they can do until morning anyway, they've already got their hands full. This whole situation is insane. I'm terrified that my friends are out there freezing to death. There's no way they suddenly managed to travel the remainder of the distance in the pitch black. I thought at one point that I saw an orange light in their direction, like a campfire or something, but the visibility here is really bad. I guess it'll be on the news in the next few days if they didn't make it. I can't sleep though. I have a guilty feeling of relief that I didn't go with them, but I also feel terrible for not trying harder to convince them.